Welcome back, everyone, to another exciting episode of Acceptable Accuracy Podcast. I'm host Kyle, joined by also host Phil.
What's up, everybody? Glad to be back again.
And we have Casey here with us. Phil and Casey ran a little bit of a unique match this morning while I was shooting vanilla USPSA. They were running the Berry County Brutal two-gun match. So Casey, give us a little bit of a 1,000-yard bird's eye view of what the Berry County Brutal match is.
Yeah, so the brutality of it was there was a very high tempo feel to the entire match. It started off with a 2 mile ruck through some kind of nasty terrain. Thankfully, we didn't have to land navigate for it. We only got a little bit lost, both Phil and I. And then from there, it was pretty standard match layouts for some stages, and then it was a lot of physicality in between to try and keep people moving, keep your heart rate up, stuff like that. And a quiz about Rambo First Blood.
Oh, excellent movie. So Phil, is this like your traditional two-gun match? You show up, squad up, get in order. Is it more similar to like the Badger 5K that we ran last year, where it's like shotgun individual start? How's that set up?
Yeah, so it was a combination of kind of like both. This is the first time they've ever done something like this because Berry County typically runs a traditional two gun where there's no real physicality other than like what is ever presented in the stage. But in this specific setup and how they ran it is you had they had a morning group. I guess they had an RO group, a morning group, a midday group, and then they had like a later day group. And what they did is they actually kicked off each kind of like sections, or like it was like 5 people, I think, Casey, if I'm correct, at a time, 5 to 6 people, is they would kick off on the ruck at the same time. So then you could kind of stay with them if you wanted to. Everybody kind of went at their own pace, and eventually I think most of us spread out. But then you completed the entire ruck before you did any of the other stages. So the ruck itself was treated as a stage and was technically like the first stage of the day.
Okay, very cool. So yeah, definitely not your traditional match, but sounds like it was a simple enough for somebody that's been to a few two-gun matches or multi-gun matches to pick up.
Yeah, it didn't require a lot of like braining from people that haven't done a running gun before, because like we did Badger, right? And that was you had to have like a stopwatch with you. So if you got like gummed up, because your total time on like a traditional run and gun is the entire match, including the time that you spend shooting stages. But if you have to wait for somebody, they'll get you a stopwatch, right? And they'll like you hit a button, and then whatever your wait time on that, they remove from your total score. And this one, the ruck itself was a score, right? And then it was like you use that as like a score as a stage. And I took they multiplied, I think, Casey, they settled on 0.15, I think.
Yep.
50% of the total time to get your time on the ruck.
Okay, cool. It seems like a lot simpler way for a club to run than the traditional run and gun style where you have to manage a lot of the backups and things like that, where you just run it as a stage.
Yeah, I think a lot of that too has to do with the fact that when we were on the ruck, you had to carry a minimum of 35 pounds, and then you would transition from the ruck to your body armor for the rest of the match and a helmet. If you choose to do it, you have to have the helmet in both sections. But because you had to switch between equipment, I think that made it a little more difficult. Where traditional running gun, you're not necessarily wearing body armor or like additional weight. You have everything on you that you need, and you don't like change anything out. Whereas this match you did,
Unless you're exceptionally hardcore.
unless you are exceptionally hardcore. Now I ran my body armor for weight during the like ruck side of things, just because like I prefer to be a little more balanced and have all the weight on my back.
Excellent. Excellent. So, all in all, pretty unique match compared to what most people are used to, but sounds like it wasn't so wild out there. It takes a dissertation to explain it and figure it out.
Yeah, real quick, I'm glad that you brought that up. The reason we're talking about this today, I think, is because it is a little bit unique and different than your traditional run and gun match. One thing that Berry County has been doing is they run like their series of two gun matches that they have a bunch of prizes that they run like summer long. Then I think there's also a fall series. and you run that, and there's prizes that you win at the end based on how you place on like X percentage of matches that you run.
Kind of like a bowling
But
league.
yeah, exactly. So you do that. That's normal matches, right? And then the team that runs it over there, Rich and team, they've been experimenting this year with new types of matches. So Casey and I shot a night match that was both white light and night vision earlier this year, and they're going to do another one in October as well. And then the fact that they're doing this brutal match on top of it, as kind of like, hey, the season's done before we transition over to the next season of shooting. Let's do something a little different. I appreciate that because like USPSA is a ton of fun, right? But it's a lot of the same thing over and over again. And for those who are looking for a more challenging shooting competition style, that's way different than your other styles of shooting. This is just another option for that, right? Like I know we talk about zombies, just a great example of that, right? They, it's 1 day rifle, 1 day pistol, 1 day shotgun, 1 day pistol. It's a little different. The Wolverine 5K requires navigation on a course, right? So this is just another example of match directors thinking outside the box and trying to create new experiences for shooters and keep things fresh.
Yeah. Casey, you think the same way? Like this is something to keep you from stagnating in one sport?
Yeah, definitely. I think they do a really good job of introducing a lot of diverse skill sets to it. And so we'll get into the stages later, but they do a really good job of always having a twist in there to show weak points in your game that I didn't know were there, because if you're doing USPSA, it's so pistol on target, pull trigger, go. And this one wasn't too thinking involved, thankfully. But they did do a really good job of like throwing in, oh, you've got this little thing that you have to do and think about on top of it. And I think that layering really shows weak points in kind of like a really rounded out skill set.
Awesome. Yeah, that's it. Correct me if I'm wrong, gentlemen, but this is only like Barry's third year of hosting these two gun matches, because I think I shot it their first year like 3 years ago, and it was like their second or third match they had hosted there.
Yeah, that sounds right. It's really like from a match perspective, it's I didn't even know Barry County existed. I'd never been there before prior to these two gun matches. Credit where it's due to with Barry County, the conservation club, like they allow Rich and his team to run these matches and to try new things. There are a lot of clubs in the unless it's like privately held that wouldn't necessarily allow this to happen. So I don't know what relationship Rich has with the rest of like the club itself, because when they do this match, they have to shut down that section of the range, right, to run it.
Yeah.
But so I do appreciate that. I appreciate the fact that like the team that's running the two gun matches is willing to work with the club. The club is willing to work with them and to do things that are unique, different. And a lot of clubs would look at it and be like, "This is a lot of risk in here, and we don't want to take that risk on."
Yeah. Yeah, and a lot of times you'll be dealing with boards and things like that at clubs that don't necessarily understand the level of safety and redundancies that these match directors put into these more unique or quote unquote high risk stages that they just don't understand how things could be safe when all they hear is run and gun, and they put up a wall and don't want to hear about it anymore. So Rich runs a really tight ship over there. I've never heard of any incidences or issues resulting from their matches, and I've been super impressed with the level of competitions that they've been putting on the last couple of years.
Yeah, and I think there's probably a set of rules the club says that they have to follow. For example, you are allowed to sling and carry a rifle from like stage to stage, right? But the bowl has to be back and locked open so that you can see an empty chamber, right?
Mm,
Pistols can be holstered, but they have to be unloaded. So common stuff, right? That just
yeah.
makes sense. You don't want somebody walking around range with a loaded firearm. And then with pistols being in the holster, obviously that makes it safe as soon as it comes out of the holster when it's not supposed to. That's DQ, just like any other match. And the
Mm,
rifle, they have the ability to immediately inspect the rifle to see whether or not there's a round in the chamber. So they know that. And then around the ruck, for example, today, they were very adamant about the fact that you did not have firearms with you. And that to me is just kind of like I would prefer not to have them with me anyway. It's just more of an obstruction in the way. Whereas, like, I'm sure that's probably was for safety reasons. They didn't want people walking out, in the middle of the woods with rifles and actually, shooting one over the berm in a direction they shouldn't have, and then getting the whole club shut down.
Yeah. So we touched on the match, the format of it a little bit. Let's get a little more in depth of, from start to finish, kind of another rough idea of what things looked like. Casey, if you want to start us off, kind of just get us, the auditory tale of how the match went.
Yeah, so they were, like Phil said, they were getting everybody in groups of 5, and you were starting at one point, and the ruck was 2 miles, and it was really well marked. You could never get lost on it, except for the little bit we both got lost on it. And so from there, it was up and down some hills. It was kind of in a big loop around the compound that they have out there. And
Okay.
I think they actually went through and did a really good job of actually clearing everything beforehand. So they created these. And just huge shout out to the team for actually taking the time to go out there and make all these trails and make this available to us. And so they were up and down some hills. I think I did 1,000 feet of elevation all in,
Okay.
and those were punishing. I'm really glad it wasn't raining and that the weather held, because I can only imagine trying to slip and slide up that mountain or that hill to get those punches. They had the big orange waypoints with punches at a few spots just to kind of make sure everybody stayed on the course and hit all the key areas.
So no taking shortcuts.
Yeah, exactly. And so after you finished the ruck portion, you weigh your ruck, and then you're immediately get your stuff, get going, go to squad stage 1. Once they had 2 people at stage 1, they were like, "You're going to go do the next stage, which is push-ups." Everything from there was a 50-50 of smaller physical events. So things like, how many push-ups can you do in 30 seconds? How many squats can you do in 30 seconds? And then actual shooting stages in there. So you were always kind of felt like you were on a clock, even though you weren't. But they did a good job of keeping up the tempo and keeping groups spread out so nothing ever backed up. And
Yeah.
I don't know if we want to go into individual stages yet, or if we want to talk about more about the overall stuff.
Yeah, Phil, if you want to give your perspective, because you guys didn't shoot together, correct?
We were able to we left in a group of 5, like we talked about at the top of the the podcast, where we rucked together. Fun fact: Casey and I actually finished at the exact same time. I will say, Casey, and I'll give you the credit, you were slightly ahead of me, but they gave us the same time in the end. But yeah, it was, so we did get a chance to shoot together. Casey was a little bit ahead of me just because he was having to do like he shot first, and then I got pulled aside to do push-ups, and it kind of went back and forth for a bit. For the most part, I think I got to watch Casey shoot every stage, but I don't think Casey got to watch me shoot because he had to move on. And again, kind of like Casey was mentioning, they were trying to keep your heart rate constantly up. So if you weren't shooting, you were either doing a separate task or you were moving to another stage, right? Where traditionally in a match, you're almost always waiting around for somebody, like, and it gets kind of boring after a while. This was definitely not that case. There were, some backups. I think we waited for maybe like 4 people at the most in front of us on any given stage.
So don't bring a lawn chair to the brutal match.
No, definitely not. I mean, you could, but there's not really anywhere, like, you're not gonna have a chance to use it for very long.
Yeah. So yeah, let's get into the stages. You got some details about the ruck march. If anything else you want to share on that, or we can just go right into stage 1.
Yeah, the ruck, real quick on the ruck, we talked about it a bit. There was a lot of, wasn't necessarily that you were like busting brush as you would go through, but as we were talking about in the pre-show, there were some sections of the ruck that were very vertical that Casey mentioned that I don't think you could get like a brush hog through. So we're pretty sure they knocked down the like foliage in there, and this time of year the briars, the underbrush is super thick. So even in areas you would go through, it would tear up your jeans pretty good, or pants, or whatever you're wearing. When I left, there was the last small group of the day that was going through, and some guy was leaving out with a pair of jean shorts on. I was like, dude, he's gonna have a bad day. I felt really bad for him. Because I don't know about you, Casey, but my arms are pretty tore up even from just the briar bushes on the side.
Yeah, those got me good.
But yeah, mostly off-road stuff, like with pretty deep like foliage that you're walking over most of the time. There were some sections in the woods that were dirt. There was some section very briefly on the road, both at the beginning and on the end. But for the most part, it was pretty intense.
Do you
I
think
missed
that's
the
something
road.
that? Oh, sorry, Casey. Go ahead.
I just missed the road. That was nice. I was cruising.
Is that something that you think might improve if they do more of these events? Like the path will get more beaten down, or you think they're going to cut different paths and leave it kind of a more unimproved trail?
Honestly, let it suck. It
Yeah.
wasn't that bad, and it kind of added to the experience. It wasn't just jogging on the side of the road or anything. It was we're cutting through some kind of nasty brush.
Casey, our resident, I wish this sucked more competitor.
Yeah, I mean it was pretty rough. If you think of like Badger, Kyle, when we did that last year, there was definitely some areas of it that were like in the farmland. They kind of pushed down some of the like crops or whatever, or the reeds or whatever. They pushed that down. It was a little hard going, but this had like roots and stuff that you get your foot caught on, and but I think that's part of the game, and it's not nearly as long as like a traditional run and gun. Those are usually 5 or 10K. The Wolverine 5K is usually 5 to 6K. This was shorter again at 2 miles. So I think to make it harder, just given the amount of land that they have, they do kind of leave that underbrush. And that underbrush, like it's going to pop back up within the next like month or so. It's probably going to mostly recover. And unless they're keeping up on that, there's no way. Now, if they continue to do this maybe multiple times a year, I could see that they may knock it down. But I don't think there's much advantage for the teams that went later in the day than there were the teams that started earlier.
Gotcha. We'll touch on loadouts towards the end, but what kind of footwear were you guys using?
I was using trail running shoes, and I didn't regret it. I think I only got close to tripping once or twice, but it was worth not carrying that extra weight.
I ran my ultras. I brought
Ultra Gang.
Ultra Gang. I brought a pair of boots with me just in case because we were expecting rain today. I ran into a guy that had just finished the entire day from the morning squad. And I was like, hey, how muddy is it out there? Because I was going to switch my boots if it was really muddy. He's like, no, there's like one spot that had a little bit of mud in it. He's like, you can avoid it pretty easy. So he's like, you're probably fine with the shoes you got. Um, Again, there's always that risk of like twisting an ankle, but the ultras they've got pretty good grip and pretty wide toe box, so I really like running with those. Plus, they're very lightweight as well. I don't regret wearing them at all, and I'm glad actually I had them.
Ultra, please sponsor acceptable accuracy.
Yes, please.
All right, Casey. So take us into the first stage after the ruck march.
The first stage was pistol only, and they had I'd probably put that 70, 80-pound pack that you had to just manhandle however you want to carry it. And you had to walk down one side of the bay, shooting targets, and kind of loop back around into a giant U shape. And there was a penalty for getting so close to them that you blew the pasters off. Yes, I did get that penalty.
I did not know that.
Casey likes the kneeling prisoner approach here. So just a big U shape while carrying heavy weight.
Yep, straightforward.
Straightforward and easy. Cool.
That one was unique in that they allowed you to run it in the U shape where you were actually pointing up range, but you could have your pistol like behind you so that you weren't breaking the 180. I probably lost some time on this one. This is the first stage we did, and I was pretty beat from trying to chase Casey down on the ruck. So I chose, because I didn't want to DQ on the first stage, I chose to like run the U, obviously straightforward down the right side, and then I actually went backwards going through, figuring that like worst case scenario, I fall backwards with the extra weight that was on my shoulders. But I was so worried, and I'm watching other shooters that were in front of me, and I'm like, somebody's going to turn at the end of it when they go to unload, and they're going to flag everybody. I don't think anyone did. I didn't check to see if there were any DQs on the match, but I just did not feel comfortable with going in that direction, so I opted to go backwards on the return.
that made me nervous the entire time, and I was dragging that gun hard and making it a point to square up in each target for that
Yeah.
exact reason.
So essentially a USPSA retreating run with a loaded gun, but with a 70, 80 pound pack.
Yeah, and you I tried to actually put the pack strap over my head so I could shoot with both hands, but it was with the body armor and everything that we had to wear during this match, which I guess we didn't really get into. So part of the brutal match, really quick, is you had to have body armor the entire time. That was at least 12 pounds worth of body armor. But I could not get the strap over my like neck and then under my arm in order for me to use both hands. I didn't see anybody run it with two hands on the pistol, so I think most people ran it with one. Again, you were pretty close to the targets, so shooting one-handed, as long as you have some practice doing so, was really not that hard.
Gotcha. So kind of a strong hand only stage.
Correct.
Yep.
Gotcha. So Phil, walk us through stage 2 then.
So stage 2 was a little bit more complex. This one was rifle and pistol, and you started on the left side of the stage, and then you would run to the right. There was a low wall, which at Barry County they have a lot of like rock on the ground of their stages, and you had to get down. It's been a while since I've practiced like shooting prone underneath a barricade, and I just could not get a good sight picture. I ended up getting all my points on it. I was down just a few, but I didn't miss. But you had to engage these 3 targets from underneath the wall at the very end of the bay. And then once you did that, get up without flagging anybody, yourself, whatever, put your continue with the carbine, go around the low wall on the right hand side, engage a set of open targets on both the left and the right side of the bay while moving with your rifle. I think, Casey, do you have the option? I think you could have switched to pistol at this point and done those targets with the pistol.
Yep. It was, I think, freestyle at that point.
But they're open targets, and I feel like not running a rifle would have been a disadvantage, especially because you have that like additional point of contact while you're moving. And I don't think anybody ran it with a pistol. So once you did you're advancing forward, shot the targets on the left, shot the targets on the right, then you end up there a line that's set down towards the end of the bay. They had 2 like steel plates that you'd engage with your pistol, and then they had a hostage type target. Actually, I guess it was like a center shot type target that flipped in and out. You had to shoot the center circle of the steel target to flip it out, and if you hit the surrounding steel target itself, then you got a penalty. That was my only penalty of the day from hitting a no shoot. Casey did very well, and he can talk about that too in a second. But he hit it, swung it out, and then from there was another coin on the ground that you had to shoot. As soon as you shot that, it moved. It took a moving target that went back and forth. You had to shoot that with your pistol, and then reholster pistol, run all the way back to the start of the stage, and on the left side, so like low wall on the right side, on the left side they had a wobble platform. So jump on the wobble platform and then engage 3 targets at the end of the bay with your rifle while on the wobble target. That was what, maybe 25 yards, 35 yards, Casey?
Yep. And all the targets were covered.
Yes, and there were no shoots all around them. So you could not lean. So on the wobble platform that they have at Barry County, there's like a rail around the front of it, and you could not like kneel and use the rail to stable your gun. You had to actually stand the whole time while you shot it. Other than that, the red, I should say, all no shoots that are steel are always painted red. So again, the center shot target, I did hit that one, but all the rest of the targets I managed to clear. A few points down, but. Yeah. I don't know, Casey, what are your thoughts on that stage? It's probably the most complex stage of the day.
That was definitely the most complex. One interesting thing that they did for this match as a whole was you started unloaded. And so there was a little
Yes.
bit of trying to plan when you were actually going to load each platform. And so you started rifle, so obviously you're going to load that first, but do you load your pistol and then get moving, or do you move that shoot or do that transition, and kind of how you play that little bit of a game. I didn't do too well on this stage, but that was by far the most complicated one of the day, and I think probably the most sea of no shoots they had. And they love no shoots, and they heavily penalize those.
How many point penalties did you end up with, Casey?
Let me check real quick. A lot. I think I went 26 points down. I think I had a few misses on that one on the wobbles.
Gotcha. Yeah, that is something that I recognize from the match. The previous matches that I've shot, just their normal two gun is they penalize bad marksmanship heavily. So let's just keep it rolling into stage 3, Casey.
This was my favorite stage because I got the stage win. Very exciting. My
Well,
first one actually
congratulations.
at one of their matches, so that felt great. This one was you start in the back right corner and you have to run up shooting 2 open targets and 1 partial with a rifle. And then you got to a giant spindle that was probably about 8 feet tall. And you had to roll that from one side of the stage to the other. And they had kind of walled off so you couldn't just shoot everything at once. They had 2 opens and then a partial under hardcover. And you had to do that for 2 different sections, all while rolling that giant spindle. And then you had to finish rolling the spindle to the end of it. And then you had to shoot 2 pistol seals and then one of those same things, those center shot hostage targets. And so this one wasn't too complicated, but speed was everything with it. And it helped a lot that Phil and I are both really tall and we could kind of move that thing around a little bit easier.
Short King struggled on that one.
Yeah, some people tried like pushing the center of the spindle, which, if I remember correctly, Casey still had like some cable wrapped around it, so
Yep.
wasn't a great spot to get purchase on. Where again, if you had a pretty good wingspan, you could push at the top of it. That was definitely for the win there.
Yeah, wingspan helped a lot.
Yeah. So Phil, what were your impressions of this stage?
So I completely unique. I've never done anything like this before, where the cover had to move with you, with the exception of having a ballistic shield, which they actually had on a previous two gun match. But I've never had to like roll something forward that was that big. Again, props to the stage design team for like thinking about that and saying, "Hey, we've got this massive spindle. You could move it forward while you're going through, and then use it as cover." This was my second best stage of the day. I got eighth overall on this one. I went after Casey. Casey does a very good job, is very thorough at looking through a stage and having like a good stage plan. And he's like, hey, I think if we roll the thing forward to an exact point, you can hit all 3 targets. Where previous shooters were like rolling it, stopping, shooting 1 target, rolling it forward, shooting another 2 targets, and it was costing them major time. So I did the same thing that Casey did. As a result, again, I think I finished 8th on that stage. Did a little bit better, not as fast, obviously, as Casey did,
You
but
don't have
again,
that Viking blood.
yeah, exactly. And we all know Casey's been lifting too, so he's got a little more of that brutal strength than I've got. But
That's right.
I
good stage.
overrolled it. I had to come
Yeah.
back. I had to stop it once or twice.
Yes, you did. That was actually funny to watch too. And I actually, after you did it, your hands were bleeding. I was like, I'm gonna do this with gloves. So I put some gloves on, and it was just fine. But again, they intentionally didn't make a lot of these stages overly complex because they knew people were going to be extremely tired, and they didn't want people to get DQ'd because they were exhausted. But by introducing things like this, it made the stage interesting without actually having a lot of targets on that stage.
Yeah, simple but challenging.
Correct.
Awesome. All right. So Phil, lead us into stage 4 then.
So Barrett County is known for most of their matches having a blind stage that you don't get a chance. Obviously, the whole concept is blind stage is you don't get to look at the stage at all. Most of the time they do a blind stage, they actually have a stage brief. The only stage brief that they gave going into this one was, because it was rifle pistol again, was the steel that was painted yellow was pistol only, and they do that for safety purposes because it's pretty close. So other than that, they gave you zero instruction on what to do with this other than go through and shoot all the targets. So again, unloaded start. You So you go in. Most people, what they would do is they would load up before they would go through. There's a door that you have to go into so they can keep the stage hidden. So kick open the door, clear some targets on the left, clear some targets on the right, switch to your pistol, and then clear again the steel that they had over there. Go through to kind of keep going through towards the end. It wasn't an overly long stage and fairly straightforward actually for a blind stage, which I think most of the time they're careful to do that because they don't want to get overly complex. But basically, again, it was almost in like it's like a modified L shape going in, if I remember correctly. And then there's like a couple portholes that you have to shoot some targets through. But anytime you have an opportunity to shoot a blind stage, I think is a lot of fun. This was actually my best stage of the day. I finished third on this stage. Um, and I was actually kind of shocked when I just looked at that now. I think it's just because I didn't get a lot of penalties. There were people that had they had a lot of like missed targets on that as well too, because again, you don't have a chance to like view it before going to it. But again, overall, just solid stage. I love the fact they do blind stages.
Yeah, blind stages are pretty fun.
I hate the blind stages. I always do terribly at them.
You did pretty good at the blind stage at Moon's Out though this past March.
Yeah, that one was straightforward compared to this one. Was targets were hidden everywhere.
Gotcha. Did you was it so I'm guessing it was pretty easy to just totally blow past the target.
Oh, absolutely. I think there were probably 10, 12 targets back there, and I double counted one, so I thought I'd already gotten it, and that's what got me on that one. And then they had some where they had their spindles laid out to kind of force you to reposition, but they had a head box sticking out from the bottom of that.
The
They're
gremlin
tricksy.
target. The gremlin target. Yeah, blind stages are always something that adds a unique element to any competition. It's not something that you get to see very often, so it is really cool that they try to implement that as often as possible. Makes it hard to get film though.
Yeah, you got to have something head mounted to make it happen.
All right. How and so Casey, take us into stage 5 then.
This was finished strong, and I got second on this stage, so very happy with that. And this one was a pretty easy, very straightforward. You started up on a hill a little bit, and they had a tire that was pretty heavy with some cargo straps on it. And you hauled the tire down, and once you got it to the shooting position, there was only one shooting position. There were, I think, 3 steel targets to shoot with your pistol, and then it was just 10 cardboard targets in a giant array of you had to kind of hunt and search for everything a little bit. And they had one that was really well hidden behind a no shoot to where I think Phil and I were tall enough to kind of see its head sticking out of the corner and know you needed to reposition. But apparently everyone was struggling to find that target. I think they had 10 cardboard up there. And kind of like the blind stage, some were hidden, some were partials. And to keep up the cadence of everything, they didn't really let you walk stages beforehand. And so you didn't get a good look at it until you ran up there.
So you kind of watch the guys in front of you go, but if there's nobody in front of you, you're just figuring it out on the clock.
Got to watch the ROs to see where they're pasting. That was the trick I figured out.
Ah, crafty, very crafty. Phil, what was your impressions of stage 5?
Yeah, again, not an overly complex stage from like a movement perspective. Obviously, there was the tire drag. Again, people like Casey and I, who are giants, and if you think of like a percentage of the way the tire versus like a normal human, it's a minor part. It's like a way less than us, right? So we're able to drag that tire over pretty easy. Like Casey said, you were shooting behind these over these spindles. There's one shooting position, but you had to move kind of between like different spots to shoot on the target, the area. I thought that I was like, there's something I got to work on here. I'm going to try to work on my target counting. to make sure I get all 10. And I got lost in the sauce a little bit on it, and I completely lost count of the targets I was shooting at. And it was funny because I probably, when you get timed on a match, the timer goes off. So the beep indicates the start of your time on the stage, right? And then the last shot that you make is where your total time is. I probably spent 20 seconds just verifying that I shot all the targets on that stage and didn't miss anything, because people were missing stuff like crazy. And I definitely re-engaged some of the targets multiple times. Some of that was intentional later because I got a better like angle on it, and I was like, I want to make sure I didn't get too many points down, and I was already on that target anyway, and I was like, I'm like 80% sure I shot this guy. But yeah, pretty straightforward. This stage was supposed to end where you would run down to the end of the stage, and then they have a section that you can shoot long distance out to 200 yards on. However, they took that out of there because some of that area they were going to be shooting down was some of the area where people would have been rucking earlier. And they were like, in theory, everyone will be back by the time we hit stage 5, but they didn't want to risk it. So they removed that section of the stage and made it, again, quite a bit shorter than I think it would have been. Honestly, I think that was obviously the right call anyway, but adding, because there's so many 10 targets, right? And lots of people re-engaging the targets multiple times. And the amount of time it takes to reset that, because they have to bring the tire back. They have to move targets around because they're hidden underneath the spindles. If they had you shooting down the long range section anyway, it would have been a huge log jam on that stage. And that's the last stage for everybody to shoot.
Gotcha. Hey, so were the ROs doing all the reset on this at this competition, or were competitors doing reset as well?
A little bit of both. Primarily the ROs were doing it because everybody was so like, very exhausted from doing the ruck itself. They did ask the competitors from the previous like run in the morning if they could stick around and help paste, and some people did. But you had like the RO taking a score, and then you had one or two other people helping reset the stage, and then because of the way that they had people progress from stage 1 ending on stage 5, eventually you would have the ROs on stage 1 where they're not doing anything, so they would actually come down and help reset the stages. So it did help a lot with the log jam. Again, I don't think I waited more than 4 people in front of me at any given time per stage.
That's incredible for a match like this.
That was the least pacing I've ever done. It felt really weird.
Yeah, I mean, huge shout out to the ROs because they ran it yesterday, right?
That's correct. Yep.
And then reset and RO all day today. Yeah, big shout out to all the ROs at this match.
Yeah, and a long day for them too, because they like, again, they RO'd it, and then they had to do the morning flight, and then they had to do the midday flight, and then there was a small flight at the end of the day. So they were around the whole time. But again, the ROs there, like, fantastic dudes. Like, I'm gonna send this out to Rich when we're done, just because mainly I wanted to say, hey, really appreciate all the work that they did. Very positive, despite the fact that they're out there all day. Some of the top competitors, they even RO the stuff, even though they're like, they're really good. They finished number 1, 2, or 3 on all these 2 guns, but they're out there goofing off with you and just having a good time. So again, major appreciation for the RO work on this, especially it was a hot day. It was a hot day today too.
Mm-hmm. All right, so take us in, Phil. Take us into the next stage.
So that was the last stage of the day for us from a shooting perspective. When you would go from, and I'll have Casey kind of talk about a few of these as well too, but between the stages, you would do different physical tasks, or like we said earlier, there was a quiz on the Rambo movie First Blood, which I didn't actually realize was not actually called Rambo First Blood. It was just called First Blood.
That's correct.
So I watched the movie like 2 days ago. I think, Casey, you said you watched it yesterday.
Yep, last night.
And there were some tricky questions in there, like hard questions, and ones that I was like, I should have looked at this beforehand. Because they asked how many, like, what was the body count of the movie? And I was like, as soon as he asked me that, I was like,
1.
Yeah, well, it was a lot.
You're 1 for 5.
You're right. What was the total count?
One.
Was
One.
it just one?
Yeah.
It's one.
Gosh.
He kills the guy in the helicopter with a rock. Well, he hits the helicopter with a rock, and a guy falls out of the helicopter. Technically, Rambo didn't kill anybody.
You just
so
answered
dumb.
2 of the
I
5
feel so
questions.
dumb.
You're doing great.
I feel so dumb.
Yeah. Our previous podcast determined the fact that Kyle Adams is a closeted nerd.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So that was kind of fun, and they asked, like, what was the final like firearm that Rambo pulls out of the back of the like army vehicle, which was the M60. The sheriff had a firearm, a special name, it was an HK something, and then they had the law launcher was a question. So again, some things that if you watch the movie, you would definitely know. Other things you probably would have had to like look up to find out what kind of firearm brand he had, right? And then I feel dumb because I forgot there was only one person that died during the whole movie. They did ask, and the last question I think was how did the first death in the movie, like, how was it? How did Rambo kill the person or whatever? And it was like throw a rock in the helicopter, right? So,
all right. So the last question of it is, who made the knife?
Yeah, I forgot
Kyle,
about
I feel
that.
like you know this.
Oh, I used to. I don't anymore though.
Jimmy Lyle.
Ah, yes, I knew that.
So
I saw one of those knives at a gun show once, a Jimmy Lyle like original one, and it was, I think the guy wanted like $2,000 for it.
Dang. I'm guessing those probably even knew they after the movie they were probably selling like crazy. I'm sure there were tons of knockoffs as well.
Everybody wanted a survival Rambo knife.
Yep.
I'm looking online right now, and they're $2,500.
Yeah.
Oh, the First Blood knife. Yeah.
So that was kind of fun though. Like, some people probably would have looked at that and said that's kind of goofy that they would do a quiz about a movie on there, but it gives me a reason. I've never seen First Blood before. This is the first time I've actually seen a Rambo movie. I
am so ashamed of you, Phil.
I know. I just
turn in your resignation.
That's right. But I have seen it now, and actually I own the Blu-ray. I was at because I knew we had to watch it, so we were on vacation recently, and there was at some used book and DVD store, and I picked up the Blu-ray version of it. So I do own it personally now.
That's good.
But yeah, so again, push-ups, air squats, quiz on the Rambo movie, and then there was the final
obstacle course.
Yes, the final thing was the obstacle course. So all of these things had points attached to them. So amount of push-ups that you did gets you seconds off your total time. Air squats, all that stuff, right? The only questions you get correct. The big final shining thing on the match was this obstacle course that if you finished it in under 45 seconds, you got a bonus of 120 seconds off your time. Oof. Which is monstrous.
Yeah, that's a lot of points down you could drop.
It's a lot. So again, that kind of plays to the way that this match was a good mix of getting points from both physicality and from your shooting skills, right? So different style and scoring type match. So I went through, I watched, I think somebody run in front of me, but it's basically you had to run out, run up over a berm, do the same thing to another berm, up and over another berm, run around to they had like these sawhorses, jump over the sawhorse, then dive, crawl underneath. They had like the big rain barrels you see in all the matches, crawl underneath the rain barrels that are on each side of you with sticks over top. And if you bumped one of the sticks off, it was a 5-second penalty. Then jump. So get out from that, jump over another set of sawhorses. And then the last obstacle that they had was you had to go over a reverse roof prop. And it was pretty severe. It was probably 6 foot tall. And you had to climb up the back of it. So not the part of it that's got the shingles on it or the roof tiles on it. But you had to go back up over it and then kind of launch yourself over it and then run across the finish line. I barely finished it in time. I crossed the line as it was going, and I felt bad because I almost bowled into people. They were had to run out of the way because I was I'm like, you guys got to move. I'm coming in. But I barely finished it. Jeff, who ran it, he did the whole thing in 31 seconds.
Oof.
Wow.
which is pretty crazy. Yeah, dude's a machine. So again, that kind of stuff added some fun. Casey, I guess your thought on the different things that we had to do between the stages.
I think it was a good variety for keeping people smoked, and they kind of built on each other to where the first stage you're carrying and lugging around this 80-pound pack, and then you're immediately jumping straight into push-ups. So going into the second shooting stage, your arms are smoked. And so I think they did a really good job with that. The next one was just the way it worked out for us. I had to do air squats and then immediately hop on the obstacle course.
Mm.
And so I think they just did like a really good job of keeping people not completely smoked, but just pushed. And I've also had never seen Rambo before. It wasn't what I expected, to be completely honest, but it
What
was.
is going on in the world?
I've seen parts of it. I've never sat down and watched the whole thing through. It wasn't what I expected. It was good, but it was a good excuse
Careful.
to watch that.
It's an American classic, gentlemen. I'm glad
Yeah,
you're finally enlightened.
I thought Rambo was about him being in Vietnam, and apparently that's Rambo 2, I guess, or
Well,
First Blood
sort of,
Part 2.
sort of.
Yeah,
We'll get more into that in the after show.
yeah. I am gonna watch it now if I can find it on a streaming service. I don't have to pay for it. I'm definitely gonna watch it. So I'm kind of into it.
So let's talk about everybody's favorite topic, gear, because gear makes you good at shooting.
It's
So
true.
yeah, good gear makes you good at shooting. Better gear makes you better at shooting. Definitely not true. But so, Casey, what was your loadout for this head to toe, then rifle and pistol?
For the ruck, I used a Hill People Gear Aston 3. Hill People Gear, please sponsor this podcast. I love all your products, and I will gladly tell everybody about them all the time. For the rifle, I was running a Mark 18 with a red dot and a 3x magnifier. I think I only used the magnifier maybe once or twice. It wasn't super needed, but it was good to have a little more reach for those big like cross bay shots. For a plate carrier, I was running a Faro Concept Slickster with a Haley chest rig over it. So we did have to carry everything with us. It wasn't a go back to the cart and grab everything. So I had 5 mags on me and I think probably 6 pistol mags as well, just to make sure I was starting every stage fresh. Then from there, I was running a Smith & Wesson M&P with a Hollow Sun EPS red dot. Worked perfectly as always. And one weird little gear thing I had was my sword ends wouldn't turn on all day. And so maybe the battery died and they just never told me, because usually they'll give you the beep when you've got like 40 hours of life left. But I brought them home, pulled the batteries out, popped them right back in, and they turned right on. So
Hmm.
probably user error or something.
The plus with the plus, the minus with the minus, or so Phil, take us through your loadout. You know, chest rig, pants, belt, gun, knife, throwing tomahawk. What'd you have?
Fortunately, no throwing tomahawk, no bladed weapon needed for this match. Actually, when I do this kind of stuff, actually, I have a because zombie requires us to have a fixed blade. I leave it on there all the time, but for this match, I took it out and put it into one of the boxes in the back of my car just so I wouldn't lose it on the ruck. I was like, it's not an overly expensive knife, but I don't want to buy another one. So
It
anyway,
has
but
sentimental value now.
yeah, it does. It has never been used at a zombie match up at least yet. So
No.
because previous years I used a different knife when we actually used it 4 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever it was.
Mm.
Um. Anyway, so for my chest rig plate carrier, I have a Faro Concepts FCPC. I walked with that or double timed whatever with it on the ruck as well. Put the backpack on. I have a pretty standard hiking backpack, nothing fancy. It's like brown and got some orange tabs on it and stuff, but it's got an internal frame. If you ever do this kind of stuff, definitely get a pack that has an internal frame. It'll really help a lot. That's kind of the unique gear for something like this, and I've used it primarily on either Wolverine 5K or this type of match. Uh, Again, pretty common. All the gear is from Feral Concepts. I have just a like slimline front panel that has 3 rifle magazines in it. For a belt, I use. I'm drawing a blank in the brain right now. It's one of the ratchet belts.
Core.
Thank you. I've had that one for a while. It's just kind of same standard thing. With a set of mag pouches, I do run a Safari Land for my pistol holster. Can't speak more highly of those. I've never had issues with that thing, knock on wood. And it does a okay job of keeping the like the gun out of the elements, especially in the rain. That kind of stuff keeps your optic covered. Though I will say, when we had to go underneath the sticks in the obstacle course, I disassembled the whole thing. It was just gritty, tons of sand all on that thing. And then I do have a pair of gloves. I'm glad I had them. They're a pair of, like, recently I purchased pig gloves. I have like monstrous hands. I'm a very tall individual, so they match me. But I finally found a pair of gloves that fit correctly, so I was super pumped about that. Use those on a couple of stages and the push-ups, that kind of stuff. For a rifle, at the Winter Wolverine match, I got a 50% off a Zero Delta rifle, and I was like, I got it, might as well buy it. Actually, I've since kind of fallen in love with that rifle. None of my other rifles have a break on it. I know, Kylie, you run on a zombie every year, and
Much to the chagrin of the ROs.
I know, and I kind of fall in love with it. It is loud, and it's not. I mean, at least for me, it's not awful, but it's loud. But it does not move when you fire it, and I'm like, man, this is kind of nice. So the thing that's unique about this rifle is it has a super long handguard on it. Again, big hands, long arms, so I can get a pretty good C clamp on that, which is one of the ways I prefer to shoot my rifle, especially in a match where you're driving it from target to target. So that ran super well. I just have a Trijicon 1-6 on top of there, for my optic usage. I go back and forth between a red dot and a 1-6 or 1-8. For this rifle, just what I had, so I put it on there and use that. And then I run a Smith and Wesson M&P. They're aluminum frame competitor. I don't have the metal HD one yet. It's on my list of things to pick up. But that gun has run pretty well. I had some issues at the last USPSA match with the trigger not resetting properly. This match ran flawless. I have no idea what's causing that. I bought some new trigger return springs. I'll eventually get those installed and we'll go from there. But the one piece of gear that was unique for this type of match and any kind of match where you're really getting your heart rate up was the Garmin watch. So, Casey, I think you have a similar model Garmin watch that I have.
Yep, the Instinct.
Yep. So, is yours an Instinct 2 as well?
Yes.
Yeah. So, I like having that because it keeps a good track of where your heart rate's at. Now, I chose to be dumb and ignore my heart rate when I was trying to catch up to Casey at the end of the ruck. And but it gives you a good indication of kind of where you're at. Plus, it's kind of fun to look at the data after the fact. Find out where your heart rate spiked. Kind of find out where it averaged at through the rest of the day, and then it also tracks you during the whole course as well. So when you're done, you can kind of look at the overhead view of where you went, how many calories you burned, those kind of things. So again, I am a taller gentleman, as is Casey. I think I burned 1,700 calories. I don't know if you checked yours, Casey.
I'm going to check right now because I'm curious. 1,426.
Yeah. So just like really just a piece of equipment that if you don't own one, pick one up. Garmin, please sponsor us. Definitely do. Garmin makes chronographs that are designed for bow and arrow and rifle. They definitely don't shy away from supporting the 2A community, because they could say, nope, we only make watches for physical fitness. They also make ballistic watches. They also make like tactical style watches as well too. So they're not afraid to get into this market, and I don't think they get advertised a ton, other than like their chronograph in the shooting community. But for somehow they've kind of avoided being canceled for making shooting related items, for being a mainstream company.
That's all the military contracts they have, so they don't care.
That's fair. That's a good point. Yep. And their chronograph's legit. It's like I had one of the old school chronographs that you'd like shoot between some like wires, and it was awful, and it worked fine. But this one you just literally put it like behind your muzzle of your rifle and fire, and you're good to go.
Yeah, they got some excellent kit. So all in all, pretty unique match. I think we did get word of your final placement, Phil.
Yeah, so I'm an older gentleman. I am over 40. They had two divisions in this match. They called it the under 40 and the over 40, but when we got there, they basically called it open and then over 40. When you arrived, you had the opportunity to say, "Hey, I am over 40, but I want to be put into the like open division," because they did have cash payouts for this match, which is unique in this case. And I ended up taking first in the 41 or 40 and over because I would have been third in that. But the two gentlemen, Rock being one of them, and another guy I had not recognized the name, were finished before I did, but they opted to move themselves into the open division because there was a little bit more money in that division if you finished in first place. Rock frequently finishes in first place. This other guy, I'm assuming, must do the same thing as well. And I was like, hey, I'm just going to put myself in there and get an opportunity to make a little bit more money. So as a result, finished first. I guess kind of because they moved into open and for the 41 and over, and then seventh overall.
Well, congratulations, Phil, on your match win, category
Yeah,
win,
yeah,
win,
division win. Yeah, I'll take it.
Division win.
Yep, with an
Well
asterisk.
with a minor asterisk.
Yeah, they had the choice. They chose to put themselves in there, but they definitely still beat me, so it's okay.
That's all right. That's all right. Open guns and PCC guys beat revolvers every day, but the revolver guys still get the win.
It's true.
Well, guys, I'm kind of bummed I missed this one. It wasn't really on my radar with all the traveling I've been doing lately, but yeah, sounds like it was an excellent match, and I'll definitely be looking into getting into the next one. Hopefully, it was a good success for them, and they do another one.
Yeah, I think so. They were talking about doing a traditional run and gun style. It was funny because when I was chatting with them, some of the ROs, they couldn't figure out how to handle the like log jam that you're eventually going to get. I don't know if those guys have never run a running gun, traditional running gun before. There's not a lot of them in the Midwest. Realistically, the Wolverine 5K is not a running gun in traditional sense. The closest one is really the Badger Trekker, because a lot of the running guns tend to be more southern. Texas has a ton of them.
Yeah, wide open space country.
Exactly. Yep. So they're going to try to do that. And I was like, yeah, people bring stopwatches. You're going to need somebody to monitor make sure that they're starting the stopwatch the correct time and pulling correct times on that. But like, oh, hey, well, that solves the problem for us. So you may see a run and gun, more traditional, where you run, shoot a stage, run some more, shoot another stage, that kind of stuff. But I have a feeling this will be back as well too. Very well received, extremely well run, especially for a first time for them to do that. But yeah, we kind of missed having you guys there. Charlie, I won't say his last name and get him into too much trouble, but Charlie from one of our shooting groups was the one that talked about this in one of the chats, and he didn't even show up. So
Charlie,
shame on you, Charlie.
He'll have to show up. He'll have to put up or shut up then for the next one.
Yeah. Yep.
We love you, Charlie.
We do.
So Casey, any closing thoughts on the match as a whole? How your gear worked? Anything else?
I think this was super fun. I would love to see these again. Keep pushing and doing cool stuff. And this was my first stage win for anything they've ever hosted, so I'm pretty stoked on that. And I'll take the things I did well on that, keep pushing them, and figure out, well, not get penalties. If I could do that, we're golden.
Shoot fast, don't suck.
Yeah, that's one part of that's easy.
Yeah. Yeah. We can all do that. It's right. The second part that's hard. Phil, any closing thoughts?
other than the fact that I hope they do run this again, I hope they continue to use their imagination and how they're going to run matches. I intentionally signed up for their first night match. I did horrible in that match. I think it was not last, but I was pretty darn close. Um, but again, I this kind of stuff in the shooting community is something that we talked about before. We kind of need to keep things fresh and new, and I will continue. Again, this is the first time they've done this. Both Casey and I ran the night match and this one. If they continue to run new style matches, I'll keep showing up, and then I'll try to make more of their normal 2-gun matches as well too. Just scheduling wise, I was unable to make those this year more than I would like, but again, if anybody's listening to this that hosts matches, don't be afraid to try new stuff. Uh, Barry County has a bit of a built-in like fan base now at this point. When you go to sign up for one of their regular 2-gun matches, they sell out within a day. Or sell out. They fill out in a day or so. So yeah, that's my final thoughts.
All right, Casey, hit us with some dad advice.
Oh, dang it. Forgot about this.
I wasn't prepared for that. I'm probably stealing this from another one, but go do really hard things with really cool people.
Yeah.
The end of the ruck, I was way out ahead for the first probably mile. And then I might have gone a little too fast, might not have paced myself as well. But coming into the last checkpoint or two in our cohort of people, I saw the guy in front of me, and I'm like, okay, I just have to stay behind him the entire time. And all of a sudden, I hear some brush crashing, and Phil is sprinting behind me. And I'm like, I guess I don't get to just coast across this thing. We have to sprint it out. And so, just that push at the end of that, everyone's tired and exhausted, and just very cool people, and keep pushing.
Awesome. Phil, followed up.
Yeah, I will. I'll echo that too. And within the shooting community, it's a small community, right? I think I heard recently that USPSA has like, they're actually pretty high now on their member list. It's like 40,000 members. Statistically, in the United States, that doesn't even register from like, what do we have, 300 and something million people now at this point, right? Now, obviously, there's a lot of gun owners, we have a lot of guns, but not a lot of people shoot matches. So I think maybe 10 years ago when I started this journey, I just kept picking up new people that were friends. Kyle, you're one of them. Casey, obviously, you're one of them as well, too. And we keep doing crazy matches together, and it makes it a load of fun. So if you're out there, you like to shoot, and you're looking to find a really awesome community, start shooting matches. You're going to find somebody that's like you, and they're going to start, like, you'll start seeing that more matches. You'll start messaging each other. We've got a chat between all of the folks in the, like, that have been on acceptable accuracy in the past. We even made stupid team jerseys. Not stupid. They're actually really nice team jerseys.
They're really good. They're really nice jerseys.
Yeah. Zero Delta, please sponsor us. Not Zero Delta. It's Zero Sports.
Zero Sports.
But
Zero Delta sponsors as well.
You guys, good rifle ran great, man. Super accurate. Anyway, like we've got jerseys that we like bought. It's like none of us are getting paid to shoot professionally, but it kind of ties us all together, right? As under the banner of acceptable accuracy. And I just kind of love it, right? And I still have a lot of friends from high school that I still hang out with and do other things. They have a hard time understanding like the whole shooting thing, but like the two other dudes on this podcast, those of you who are listening, you guys understand. So find that community, keep pushing it forward, do something for the community, whether it's help run a match, help borrow a match, reset stages, tear down stages, whatever it is. Again, just get out there and be part of this awesome community. With that, Kyle, what do you got for dad advice?
Yeah, I'm going to tie right into your community thing that, no man is an island. We're social creatures. Reach out to buddies, talk to your friends, have hard conversations with people, argue. When all you do is spend your time sitting inside on a computer or in front of a TV, it burns you out from the inside out. So get out, do some hard things, go have, a barbecue with your friends, have a, split a meal or something like that. Do something that gets you involved with other people's lives, makes your life better. makes everything better, keeps the community strong.
Yeah, I started using a term for like going out and doing things is analog. We've lived in a very much a digital world.
That's
And I think what you
excellent.
described is analog. Go do
Be
analog
analog.
things.
Be
Go
analog.
touch
Uh,
grass.
be analog. That's a T-shirt.
That is a t-shirt. Huh. My sister-in-law works at a company that makes marketing materials for companies, so I think I might have to get that done.
That's excellent. Excellent idea.
All right. With that, Kyle, you wanna close this up?
Yeah. So thank you everybody for joining us again on another exciting episode of Acceptable Accuracy. I want to thank Casey for coming out, talking with us about this match. These guys shot this match literally, they were done like 5 hours ago. So a big shout out to Phil and Casey for coming out, talking to me about this match, getting this podcast out, and we appreciate y'all listening. Follow us on Instagram, anywhere you find a podcast, Spotify, YouTube, and also the Firearms Radio Network. So thanks everybody.
Yeah, and feel free to email us podcast@acceptableaccuracy.com. I actually owe somebody a response. I apologize. I haven't responded back to you. We may actually have a cool company come on and come talk about some stuff. So again, with that, thank you guys very much, and we'll see you on the next one.